One thing I'd love to just begin on is, you are an influence and an inspiration to so many writers, so many readers. But you, when you were starting out, who were your influences? Who were your inspirations at that formative period?
Am I turned on?
As turned on.
I first started finding pleasure in writing in grade school, and I wrote for what was known as the Linden News. That was our grade school, Linden School in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I wrote a lot all through high school, short stories, poetry, for the newspaper, for the yearbook. I was the editor of the yearbook. And then I went off to Yale and majored in English and wrote for the Yale News. But at that time, Robert Penn Warren was on the faculty. John Hersey came to talk to us. Thornton Wilder was a fellow of Davenport College, where I lived. So the aura of these literary giants was felt profoundly by a great many of us. But I would say the one who influenced me the most was the great professor of the history of architecture at Yale, Vincent Scully, who did not teach English, but his lectures were uplifting in the extreme, and I think he taught us all, certainly taught me, how to see as I had never really seen before. And that was of the utmost importance to my way of trying to write. Make me see, I think was Dickens, was great admonition to aspiring writers. And then, of course, the people I was reading. I wrote my first so-called essay on a writer, Richard Wright, and I did so by doing the very nerd-like thing of staying at Yale during spring vacation. Everybody was running off to somewhere or other, and I decided, no, I'm going to stay here. And I went over to the Sterling Library to work with the Richard Wright papers. And there was no professor coming by to check to see what I was doing, no classmates were going by saying, what the hell are you doing here? And I was free to just work. And I loved it. It was the best spring vacation I ever had. And I began to think, maybe there's some way I could wind up doing this sort of thing for my work, for my living. I think that we all are so indebted to teachers and to inspiring professors and lecturers and to parents or whomever made it possible for us to get an education. And the older I get, the more I realize the indebtedness that I feel to my father and mother that made it possible for me to have the experience of one of our greatest of all universities. And I just don't think I can ever do sufficient payback. And I try to instill that attitude in our own children and grandchildren.